News Centre. This is Emirates News with Eunice Saif.
Hello and welcome to Emirates News. We are broadcasting from Dubai and these are your headlines tonight. The President congratulates the Vietnamese President on his country's Independence Day. Some schools transferred to distance learning system as the UAE announces 735 new cases of COVID-19.
I'm Greg Fairley. In the business tonight, ADNOC signs property deal with Apollo Global Management worth over 20 billion dirhams to lease some of its key properties on a long-term basis.
And I'm Graham Clues, and in the sport, the UAE football season will not start until at least October. The professional football season in the UAE was set to start tomorrow, but it has now been delayed for another month at least.
President His Highness Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan has sent a message of congratulations to President Nguyen Trong of Vietnam on the occasion of his country's Independence Day, which is observed on the 2nd of September. His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, UAE Vice President, Prime Minister and the ruler of Dubai, and His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi and the Deputy Supreme Commander of the UAE Armed Forces, dispatched similar messages to President Trong. Minister of State for Foreign Affairs Dr. Anwar Gargash has reviewed prospects for consolidating cooperation between the UAE and Israel with National Security Advisor and head of the Israeli National Security Council, Mir bin Shabat. The two sides discussed ways of promoting peace and stability in the region. Gargash reiterated that the UAE-Israeli peace accord is a positive step toward advancing prospects for peace in the region, saying, "The accord contributes to suspending Israel's annexation of Palestinian territory and provides a historic opportunity to return to negotiations as part of our joint endeavors to reach a sustainable peace that ensures regional security and stability." The UAE today announced 735 new cases of COVID-19. This brings the total number of cases in the country to 71,500. The Ministry of Health and Prevention also announced 538 new recoveries, bring that total to just over 62,000. 3 new deaths take the death toll across the country to 387. The Ministry of Education and National Emergency Crisis and Disaster Management Authority have decided to transfer some schools in different Emirates across the country to distance learning system. The decision comes after suspected cases of COVID-19 were found among school staff during the testing phase. This precautionary measure will remain in place until the results of the lab tests. Officials have called on all teachers, administrators, students and their parents to disclose suspected cases or any contact with people infected with the virus. Parents should also stop their children from attending school if they show any symptoms. The Dubai Health Authority, in cooperation with the KHDA, has tested 35,000 teachers and admin staff working in Dubai's private schools for COVID-19. The free tests were part of a precautionary measure to ensure the safety of students and staff. The tests were all conducted over a 6-day period before the start of the new academic year. The DHA has stressed that it spares no effort to ensure the highest levels of health and safety for the community. Now, the Dubai Health Authority has highlighted a number of back-to-school health tips and precautionary measures as children continue to return to school. The authority urges families to educate children about COVID-19, how it is transmitted, and ways to protect themselves from it. It also encourages open conversations with your children about the coronavirus to address any worries. The 10-point plan has been designed to help children better understand the risks, but also empower them to help stop the spread of the virus. The UAE's efforts to assist medical staff in various countries to overcome COVID-19 crisis continues. In the past 24 hours, the UAE has flown out tons of medical aid around the world. Myanmar and Cambodia each received 5 metric tons of medical supplies, which is expected to help around 5,000 healthcare workers. And Colombia received an additional 14 metric tons of medical supplies for 14,000 medical professionals. Since the onset of the pandemic, the UAE has sent 26.7 tons of medical aid to Colombia, including more than 200,000 testing kits. Overall, to date, the UAE has provided over 1,300 metric tons of aid to more than 110 countries. A UAE relief ship carrying 2,400 tons of aid left for Beirut today to support people affected by last month's deadly explosion. The aid includes food, medical supplies, children's food supplements, sanitizers, personal protective equipment, and clothes. The Emirates Red Crescent says they are trying to meet the growing needs of the Lebanese people as they battle COVID-19 and recover from the Beirut port explosion. Meanwhile, Lebanese officials have expressed their appreciation for the UAE's initiatives and its support for the victims, noting that it was the first country to assist Lebanon following the disaster. The UAE has sent urgent aid to Pakistan to assist those affected by floods in the country's southern region. The Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan Foundation's relief team distributed supplies including medicines, tents, blankets and baby formula to some 75,000 people in the southern regions of Sindh. The assistance is in continuation of the Foundation's relief and development initiatives around the world. Focusing on India now, and their fight against COVID-19 continues to produce worrying records after reporting the most cases within any country in one day earlier this week. They have now registered the most new COVID-19 cases of any country in the past week. It's nearly 500,000 fresh infections have in fact pushed the global tally up by 1%. The cases represent a 9% increase compared to the previous 7 days and the highest numbers of new cases globally. Now, close to 25.8 million people have now been infected with COVID-19 and 857,000 have died. That's the latest from Johns Hopkins University. The U.S. has the highest number of infections, fast approaching 6.1 million, and 184,000 people have died there from the disease. As Brazil begins trials of a Chinese-made vaccine, they currently have 3.95 million cases, and the country has over 122,000 fatalities. In India, they have close to 3.8 million infections, and the death toll has passed 66,000. In the last 24 hours, Russia has passed the 1 million mark, and there have been 17,000 fatalities in Russia so far. And finally, Peru rounds off the top 5 worst affected countries with 657,000 cases and 29,000 deaths. Expo 2020 Dubai has tied up with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to support grassroots innovations that can potentially help millions across the world amid the current challenging times. The collaboration will promote innovation in global humanitarian and development response by identifying, co-funding and upscaling innovative solutions. The Gates Foundation's Emergency Response Program will share expertise, best practices and technical assistance with Expo Live, a Malaysian organization that sells meals cooked by refugees, a group that supports farming communities in Africa, and an education charity working in Lebanon and Jordan are some of the 142 projects. Staying with Expo 2020 Dubai, and they have thanked all the international participants at their recent 5th International Participants Meeting. The 4-day digital event concluded last week with representatives of the 190-plus participating countries, all contributing. They also promised to deliver an exceptional Expo, which will begin on the 1st of October 2021. More than 760,000 medical fitness tests and occupational screenings have been conducted in Dubai this year. More than 660,000 were medical tests and over 99,000 were occupational screening examinations. These were completed at the 18 active medical fitness and occupational screening centers across Dubai. Health authorities stress that medical fitness tests are compulsory for all expats to obtain a residency visa. Dubai Airport smart gates at Terminal 3 have been reactivated. The GDRFA in Dubai made the announcement today by saying that only departing passengers will be able to use them by scanning their passports. Officials say the contactless smart gates add an extra layer of safety as the country implements various measures to curb the spread of the coronavirus. Emirates has announced it will resume passenger services to Conakry, Dakar, Lusaka and Warsaw this week. The move comes after the Dubai-based airline resumed services to Bangkok and Birmingham last week. The additions raise Emirates' network to 79 destinations. The airline has also implemented a comprehensive set of measures to ensure the safety of its customers and employees, both on the ground and in the air. A 67-year-old flight attendant's first flight to the UAE was her last for El Al, the Israeli flag carrier. The airline's longest-serving flight attendant retired today after leading the cabin crew on a groundbreaking return trip to Abu Dhabi with Israeli envoys. Monday's outgoing flight to Abu Dhabi passed over Saudi Arabia, a first for Israeli aviation. Retiring at 67, the flight attendant bid her final passengers farewell over the PA system, saying, "May we always go in peace."
I hope it's not the last one. It's a good opportunity to open others countries to make visit us. That's what we wish. Always. We say everything. Shalom, shalom, it's the word.
We'll have to pause now for a short break, but also up next is today's Business with Greg.
ADNOC signs property deal with Apollo Global Management worth over 20 billion dirhams to lease some of its key properties on a long-term basis. That story and the rest of today's business on the way when we return.
Welcome back to Emirates News. One of the stories we're following tonight. The UAE today announced 735 new cases of COVID-19. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Education and the National Emergency Crisis and Disaster Management Authority have decided to transfer some schools in different Emirates across the country to the distance learning system. Time now for the business.
The UAE Ministry of Finance has launched the next phase of the Mohammed bin Rashid Innovation Fund. The next phase will create an integrated work environment that supports innovation and will integrate all the services the fund provides in a way that benefits its members. The fund itself plays an important role in supporting the UAE's transition to a knowledge-based economy. It also helps create solutions that support the objectives of the UAE Centennial 2071 and the UAE National Innovation Strategy. Abu Dhabi National Oil Company has signed a 20.2 billion dirham property deal with Apollo Global Management, who are one of the world's largest alternative investment managers and a group of institutional investors. The deal will leverage the rental income streams from select ADNOC real estate assets under a master lease agreement spanning 24 years. The transaction will result in upfront proceeds of 9.9 billion dirhams for ADNOC. Credit insurance company Euler Hermes GCC this week issued their latest assessment of the UAE economy. CEO Jean Claus updated me earlier via Zoom on some of the key findings of their forecast and how the stimulus measures introduced earlier this year are helping.
We do expect a 1.5% growth of the GDP in 2021 in comparison to a contraction of -6% in 2020. We do expect an acceleration of the growth only in the second semester 2021 when the outbreak is going to be more under control worldwide. I think here it is very important also to underline the job which has been made by the UAE government to contain the outbreak locally and to enable business to be back sooner, I would say. In 2021, we do expect a couple of sectors like tourism, retail, to pick it up faster in approach of the Expo 2021, but also sectors linked to the global recovery, like logistics and trading, in order to fuel this recovery in 2021. The UAE Central Bank and the UAE government have adopted for 256 billion dirham of stimulus package, which aims at protecting the vital economic sectors, but also supporting the emerging sectors and creating a new one. The package provides liquidity and capital for banks and corporates, but also reduce cost of doing business. What is very nice also with this package is that the SME segment is not left aside with, for example, the Abu Dhabi financing scheme targeting especially SMEs for $3 billion US dollar. UAE government can afford such packages because the ratio public debt to GDP stood at 52% in 2019, and we do expect to climb at 65% in 2021.
The agricultural sector here in the UAE in the first half of 2020 saw a total 768 million dirhams in banking facilities made available to them, raising the total received by the sector to 1.82 billion dirhams as of June. Statistics from the UAE Central Bank show a significant increase in the financing of the agricultural sector, reaching its highest levels since March 2019, with the balance of banking facilities provided to the sector amounting to 1.54 billion dirhams in the first quarter of 2020. Jebel Ali Free Zone has agreed to extend its expertise in licensing, visas and other related activities to the Gold and Diamond Park in Dubai, which is a free zone developed by Imam Mall's group. JAFSA will in future handle all regulatory activities such as licenses and registration for companies, individuals and other entities that conduct business activities at Gold and Diamond Park in accordance with applicable laws. Over 90 retailers and brands currently operate in the park. And that is your business tonight, keeping you up to date. Now back to Eunice.
Thanks, Greg. Time now for another break, but also up next is today's sport. And Graham, do you have any updates with that very messy transfer?
The Lionel Messi business, yeah. Well, what we do know is his father has been in Barcelona in the last 24 hours. They've been talking, trying to work out some kind of deal. Obviously, Barcelona's first fixture was due to kick off. The UAE football season is delayed by another month.
You're watching Emirates News. One of these stories we're following tonight. The UAE today announced 735 new cases of COVID-19. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Education and the National Emergency Crisis and Disaster Management Authority have decided to transfer some schools in different Emirates across the country to the distance learning system. Time now for the sport.
The start of the new UAE football season has been put back another month, just 24 hours before it was due to get underway. After 6 months without football, the first round of the Arabian Gulf Cup was all set to start tomorrow evening. But in the last few hours, the UAE Football Association and the Pro League Committee jointly announced that football will not be allowed to kick off until October at least. Now, clubs across the country had been counting down to kick off tomorrow, with many making late transfer window purchases in anticipation. But now those plans have to be adjusted. The FA said they hope to start the season in October, but no dates have been confirmed. Golf and the race to Dubai is in Spain this week after a 6-week stint in the UK. The Valderrama Masters this week is the third event in a row to take place at a former Ryder Cup venue, following the Belfry last week and Celtic Manor the week before. The current and former Abu Dhabi Championship winners Lee Westwood and Martin Keimer headline the field, where the prize pot stands at 5.5 million dirhams. And another big name in Race to Dubai golf, Ian Poulter, has been helping some young Emirati players this week via distance learning. Some young stars from the Emirates Golf Federation have received some very personal help from Poulter in his role as an ambassador for DP World, the named sponsor of the end-of-season event, the DP World Tour Championship Dubai. Using a live video link, the players showed their swings and their problems, and Poulter tried to help them out from his home in the US.
Hi guys. Because I'm not able to make it out to Dubai and personally coach the kids from EGF at the minute, I'll be using my simulator right here, along with my son Joshua, to help you guys with some of your swing techniques.
Now, camel racing will return to the UAE following its suspension earlier this year to limit the spread of COVID-19. This week marks the first race series since camel circuits were closed in April. New safety rules include handlers must minimise their time at the track and wear masks at all times or risk fines for non-compliance. Trackside majlises, where race owners socialise, will remain shut. And Dubai Sports World is staging a series of competitions for local clubs over the next few days. The new Dubai Sports Community Clubs tournament will run from the 4th to the 11th of this month at Dubai Sports World, which is ongoing in Zabil Halls 4, 5 and 6 at the World Trade Center. 14 local clubs from various different sports have already committed to taking part in the event, which is being run by the Dubai Sports Council. OK, that's your sport for tonight. Back to Eunice.
Thanks, Graham. And finally, items belonging to some of the music world's biggest stars are going up for auction to raise funds for musicians struggling to make ends meet during the pandemic. An outfit from Cher, Elton John's tracksuit, a Fender ukulele signed by Billie Eilish, as well as personalized items from Robert Plant and U2 are just some of the items donated. They will go under the hammer in Beverly Hills next week in the hope that they will raise more than $500,000. The coronavirus pandemic has led to the cancellation of thousands of concerts and tours and forced the closure of most music venues, leaving many musicians unable to pay their bills. And with that, we end tonight's bulletin. Thanks for watching. You can always follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Dubai One TV. We'll be back again tomorrow. But for now, have a great evening. Goodbye.